Hey, good afternoon, guys. It's KB5 MIQ Big Boy. Got a little short intro here I want to do to tonight's video, kind of explain it to y'all. Jeff come up with a good idea. I'm going to do a Wednesday series of videos for about 4 or 5 weeks called Ham Shack Visits. And hey, Ham Radio Cat, come on up here, bud. And called Ham Shack Visits. And this is to go around, let you see some different guys' shacks. You're going to see hams. It's like Jeff's been a ham since 77. And you're going to meet some of our friends that's only been a ham a couple of years. So you'll get some different perspectives, different views, different equipment, and guys' different takes on ham radio. I think y'all enjoy it. Video's a little long. I urge you to watch all of it because there's a little interview with Jeff at the end after he explains his equipment. So I hope y'all enjoy it. I'm working on the audio. I had a little audio problem with this one. I think this will be all right. Maybe I can get it improved on the next one. Guys, I want to clarify another thing. I always mention Broken Circuit Ranch and Circle 6 Mail Drop as being a sponsor of the channel. And then I also mentioned Dan Majors. Dan is actually a sponsor of the channel too. I don't use a script, so I keep forgetting to say it like that. Dan is sent to give us a lot of the books I've give away. So y'all be sure to check his business out, Radio and Amp Repair. His info is always at the first of the video. The link for Broken Circuit Ranch and Circle 6 Mail Drops in the description of the video. Guys, I hope you enjoy this series, but they're going to be on Wednesday. Saturday night, I'll just do my normal videos. Remember, Main Trading Company in Paris, Texas. Get on Richard's email list so you can keep abreast of all the sales and coupon codes. Videos following this. Thanks. 73. Hey, good afternoon, guys. It's KB5 MIQ Big Boy. We're fixing to start filming episode 1 of my Ham Shack visits, and I'm here at the QTH of one of my oldest friends and my original element in ham radio, WD5HKV, Jeff Johnson. Let me flip this back around. Hey, okay. Jeff.
Hey.
Show us what you got here on your bench.
Okay. I guess the best way to do it would be we'll start at the top up here, and I'll show you that.
All right.
For you new guys, and Big Boy said this 100 times, you've heard him. That right there is one of the first things you ought to get for your shack, or some form of it.
Right.
Handbook. You can get them relatively cheap at swap meets and junk sales, or you can get them new or whatever. It doesn't matter, but they'll serve you well over the years, even if they're old.
That's true. Very
That's
true.
One of the best expenses you can have on in this hobby as you get into it. This old equipment here, this was the first radio I ever built. As a matter of fact, it's my first shortwave I ever had. It's old Konar. I built it from a kit in the late 70s as I was studying for my novice license, and then I built this transmitter to go with it. After I got my license, I didn't have it finished in several years, or not several years, several months after I actually got the license before I could even start transmitting because I didn't have my transmitter finished. So anyway, that was my original setup there. Made a lot of contacts with CW. Back then, that's all you was allowed to work as a novice with CW. So a lot of hours on those building and operating. That box there is an old tube tester I got here a couple of years ago. Just some of this old stuff I'll show you here in a minute. Testing the tubes on. I think it's a heat kit. Or night. It might be a night. I don't even remember now. I hadn't had it open in a while. That's just a tuner, LVG tuner that I've had that went with one of these other radios. And that is a piece of Kenwood equipment there. It's a digital frequency controller that goes with a piece of another Kenwood here I'll show you in a minute. It's an older piece of equipment, probably dates back to the early 80s, somewhere in there. Antenna rotor. It's all it is a TV antenna rotor, and hopefully we can get a picture of the antennas for you.
Now, while he's on that subject there, I can't help but mention this. That's a brand new antenna rotor, and there's a brand new one on my bench, and it killed our souls to have to shell out the money for that because we lived on used ones for years, and that's dried up. But
they're cheap. They're 120 bucks, something like
yeah,
that.
we
was maybe a little more.
And we was buying them used ones for 10 to 15 bucks a piece.
But if you got lightweight antennas you need to turn,
that's a
best on a tower or pole. That's a good way to go.
Good way to do it.
Go.
Yep.
This is an old Uniden 10-meter radio I've had for probably 35 years, or I don't know, or longer maybe. Still works. Carried it mobile for a while. Carried it portable. Played around with it. Still operational. Good radio. Covers AM, CW, sideband, and FM. Good little radio. It's about 25 watts out or something like that, if I remember right. So Icom here, I've had this since the early 80s, maybe. It was one of my first 2-meter radios.
I was with you when you bought that.
They get that at us.
Texarkana Hamfest back in the early 90s.
Okay, 90s.
Yep.
They originally came out as a 2-meter, but you could get this module with sideband as an add-on to it, and this one came this way. You can see it does not have a top lid on it, never has. It failed me here a couple of years ago when I did a little work on it and got it going again. Still works. It's QRP, like 10 watts out, but they're fun little radios. They didn't make them many years, so they're hard to find. But if you can find one that's working, it's worth getting if you can find one. They're good little radios anyway for their time. You want repeaters, but they don't have a tone encoder or anything on them, so that kind of. But they do have sidebands. You can play sideband, CW, whatever you want. Have some fun with it there. This is a Yaesu 891 I bought a few years ago. Cody Barrett, one of our hammerheads, built these side rails for me. Did an excellent job on that. Keep them knocking that big knob off on it.
Yep.
He's got one just like it, and he put some on his as well. I really don't use that radio that much. I've done some portable with it and whatnot, and worked in the shack with it some, but I just like the old junk iron here. I'll show you that. I'll show you that in a minute.
Got the broken circuit wrench shack gadget.
Yes, I'm gonna tell you. Check him out. It's brokencircuitwrench.com. Is that right?
Yeah, the link will be in the description of this video.
Okay, there you go. He hand makes these things, these clocks. He's got my call sign on it. That's supposed to be a ham with headphones on, which is a very good depiction of it. You've got the Central Standard Time, which we're under, and then UTC time on mine. He hand builds these things, and he also takes this wood and that he procured locally and makes the case and everything out of it, all by hand, every bit of it.
Every bit by hand. He's got this version, and he's got the YouTube version where it'll keep up with your YouTube if you're a YouTuber.
You won't. I mean, you just don't get that anymore, hard handmade stuff that good.
Yeah.
So check him out. I advise you to check him out. Power supply here, switching power supply from MFJ. I've had it for several years now. Matter of fact, I bought it when I bought this 718, and I use it on and off over the years. They're good little radios. They've been making them things for 20 some odd years and still make them. It's a more updated version of them now, but they're good radios. They're AM and sideband CW. I think they do FSK frequency as well. No FM on them. Do not have FM. 162 10 meters. But they're neat little radios. I put a high mic on it, headset, and they work really well. I don't know how many years I've even had that now, but it was years when I bought it, and still works.
You bought that not long after I bought my 897 in 06. So you've had it a long time.
I don't even know yet. Had it a while. But they've been making them a long time. They're still pretty pricey. I think a new one is, I'm guessing, $700, something like that. Now, somewhere in that neighborhood, give or take. You can find them used, but even the used ones are still a little bit. Still a little bit, but you don't get what's paid for. So they're good. They're good piece of equipment. Kenwood TS130S. This is the kind of stuff I love right here. This is about a early 80s model radio. They made these for, I don't know, maybe 5 years or so. I don't know exactly. Somebody correct me if I know. This is the era I like. That and these others you'll see in a minute. It's some of Kenwood's first all digital equipment. They're very simple radios. There's not a lot of features on them that you'll see on the newer stuff, but I like it simple. You can open the case on these things. I can get around in them and work on them relatively easily. Kenwood makes some of the best service manuals out there. If you get a service manual, one of these, you can maneuver around in them pretty good. It's all through hole technology in them, so you can replace parts. It's pretty big. Once you get in there, you can see around and maneuver around with your probes and stuff relatively easily. That's why I like this era of radio. And like I say, these are simple, and I'm kind of like the simple stuff anyway. So this is what I prefer. Got hooked up to Kenwood MC50. I've had this thing for 40 years maybe. I had it with an old Kenwood TS 180S, which I still have. It's in the cabinet, gutted. I've got it waiting on some parts and a donor radio too, so if I ever find one. But it's of the same era as that, basically. I bought this watt SWR meter that I got at Huntsville a few years ago. Pretty good watt meter. 2 meters, Yaesu 2 meter, just a single band mono 2 meter. I really don't use it a whole lot. That was Kent K1ENT gave me that radio, matter of fact. Very graciously gave it to me. But the reason I don't use it as much because I have this and this is one of the China-made radios, so Ocean, Boxum, however you say it. I'm not good at saying it. Typically use it to crossband repeat with. Being out in the country on a farm like I am, I go into it with. I will cover the handhelds in a minute. I go into it on a handheld via 70 centimeter, and it retransmits it on 2 meters on the antenna outside on the tower, and therefore that way I can work simplex with all the guys in the hammerhead group off my handheld. So crossband is pretty cool. If you don't know anything about it, some of you guys that like VHF, UHF, you might check it out. It's pretty neat function, and I think Yaesu, and I'm sure Yaesu and some of the other makers have a crossband deal going on.
Yeah, my 8900's got crossband on it.
Great feature, mobile or in your shack, either one. It really opens up the possibilities there with it. Here's some more of the old stuff I like. Drake and Kenwood are probably my favorite makes of radio out there. Drake had some really good equipment back in the day. They went defunct back in the 80s sometime. All of this stuff across here on the bottom shelf is all chassis, all-state equipment. Everything's easy to get to. It's all tube. It's all chassis mounted, every bit of it. And notice the old Drakes actually had copper coated chassis, which is pretty unique.
Well, it is.
Pretty interesting how they did that. You can see this stuff's easy to work on, easy to get to. You can actually get your fingers and probes and whatnot on there. The only drawback to all this old equipment, there's a lot of high voltage in these things. So if you get into that, make sure you study the safety behind it, because that stuff will grab you. There's a lot of high voltage in it.
That's
It'll
good.
Mess you up.
That's a good point.
So make sure you study the safety of it before you or as you get into it. Very important. I've got a matching Drake, and the reason this was out of the case, it's a work in progress, which I've got a lot of projects. This is one of them here that I hadn't finished yet. This is a matching receiver that goes with it. Drake has, to me, just some of the best sounding equipment out there, even though this is probably late 60s, mid 70s equipment. Transmitter, separate transmitter and receiver, where now we have transceivers. There were 2 separate units back then, and they were just starting to come around with transceivers. Matching power speaker, and this uses an external power supply which fits in the back of that. Out of that, this has got a built-in power supply here. Another Drake receiver, excellent little receiver, 2B, and I've got a matching speaker with it. Multiplier, which is a type of filter system with it. Anyway, these are neat little receivers. I've got it paired up with a old Holocrafters transmitter, and my intent with these 2 rigs was to get back into CW, and I hadn't fully gotten back into it. Another project and finished yet. I'm working on it. Getting into it.
We all got them, buddy.
Yeah, well, I got plenty of them. But anyway, that was the intent behind all of this, to get back into CW. And actually, you see these little things here, these are actual crystals that control the frequency, whereas these radios here had the VFO, which y'all know where you can tune, change the frequency on them. To change the frequency on one of these, you had to flood a crystal in it, which would determine what frequency you were on. See, that one's below 7 megahertz, 7295
All right.
frequency for that one. I have a few crystals here, but to change frequency, you had to pull a crystal out and put another one in.
What is it? Do you plug on the inside or right?
Yeah.
Right there in the front of the radio.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And this old one the same way. My original one, it's got a crystal socket on it too.
Okay, yeah, right there in the front.
Same thing.
All right.
Change. And that's how I started out. I didn't have a variable frequency at all. I had to plug the crystal in. Pretty simple setup, but it works, you know, and they're good. I don't know. It's just kind of the nostalgia, and it's why I do it. It's what I grew up with.
This end of your bench is your test area?
This kind of test area. I've got a fluke meter. Why I've got it, I have no specific reason. I just wanted one. They're kind of outdated now, but I just wanted a fluke, a bench model test meter. And there's lots of things that it won't do compared to some of the newer ones. I don't have it. I'm going to lay this out and didn't. I'll show you this real quick for you guys. This is I bought this at Lowe's. It's a Southwire brand, and it'll do voltage measurements, amperage measurements, resistance. It'll even do a capacitance test, so you can test capacitors with it. It's got a AC/DC amp probe on it where you can check current. Most of them, if you look at it, they don't have the DC side. They'll have the AC, but not the DC. This particular model did. That's kind of big to get into radio. It's more for electricians.
Yeah, electrician type too.
But still, they're handy to have. So get some features to look for. And I think that thing was $80 or $90.
Yeah.
That's one of the. If you're gonna buy some test equipment, get you a good multimeter first thing. That's just one of the best things you can get. Oscilloscope here. I use it some. I don't use it a whole lot. It has its reasons for being, but it's not something you have to have. It's kind of just a luxury item for me, I guess. At the back is a Variac. Yeah, I lost the word. The Variac, and we use those for this older equipment. If you buy an old piece of equipment, a lot of them, well, they all had electrolytic capacitors, especially in the power supplies, and those things are bad about leaking over time. You know, if you got a 60-year-old radio, 50-year-old radio, that means it's a good possibility the capacitors in it are with the original. And if you just slam 120 volts to it, it's liable to pop them.
Right then.
And when it does that, it'll ruin some other components too. So what you do with that Variac is you can start the voltage at 0. You plug the piece of equipment into that, and that's plugged into the wall, and you just gradually bring up the voltage slowly and let it set on it a while. And you can actually form some of those capacitors, reform them if they're any good, but it's best to change it if you get into the old equipment like that. Signal generator here, outside of probably if you're into building stuff and working on stuff, once you get a multimeter, I would recommend getting some kind of signal generator. That's a cheap one. I didn't give much for it, $100, something like that new. But that can help you work on, receivers or whatever, injecting a signal in them and then tracing the signal through the various stages of the receiver. So outside of a multimeter is all I had for years to troubleshoot. And it's a little harder and it takes a little longer to do it for them, but it can be done, especially on older equipment you can get into. But once you get a multimeter, if you're looking at equipment, that some type of signal generator would probably be the next step after that. I would say, is my opinion on it. Soldering iron, of course. If you're gonna work on something, you've got to have a soldering iron. This is a Heiko, I'm gonna call it. Top of the line here. These are good. I don't even remember what I gave for it. $150, $120, somewhere in there. Variable heat settings with it, and you get all of this with it. So various tips with it, flat pointed, whatever. Outstanding. If you want a good one, in my opinion, those are one of the best out there. I think. I built this old Konar receiver. I was a kid when I built it. I didn't own a soldering iron. I built it with a wood burning pencil. And it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. Now,
Yeah.
it was tough to do it with, but I did it. I eventually got a 35-watt pencil iron, Weller, built to build that with, and other things too. But,
And you got
your stuff here.
You got your talkies and your amp over here. I've
This
seen
now-
that amp before.
Yeah, this came from Kent, K1ENT Kent. I do not have it hooked up yet. Another project in the making that I have not got to yet. I've got to drop me a outlet from the panel there, hook it up. I think it's a 2 kW, I think.
Yeah.
Another project I've got. Handhelds. I never thought I'd be in the handhelds. When David and I got into this hobby, when I got into it in the 70s, owning a handheld was extreme luxury if you had
Yeah.
one. They were very expensive and very scarce. Now you can get them under you can get a nice handheld under $200 easily. That's an FT70 Yaesu. They're about $160, $70. What's that model you got?
FT4X.
They're less than that.
94 Lux.
You can play what you want to. This is a Kenwood 72 THD72. It's got a built-in TNC, and it's a pretty fancy one. It'll do satellite work and APRS, stuff like that. And I've got a couple of handhelds here me and my wife bought. We use that's a 60, FT60. They're $150, $60,
Yeah.
and they're like bricks. They're dual band, good handhelds, and then we got 2 Bayaphones here. Not knocking Bayaphones. They're good because you see I got 2 of them. But if I had it to do over again, I think David would agree with me. Probably go and spend a few more dollars and get a Yaesu just because they're a little bit better radio, more features. The menus are easy to work, easy to navigate. You don't have to necessarily have to have computer software to program. You can go in there and once you figure it out, just zip through it and program whatever you want in them. So they're relatively easy to do. These Bayaphones gotten a little better, I think, over the last several years. They started out being pretty dirty. The transmitters were pretty dirty on them. But I think they've come about a little bit more filtering and whatnot on them and gotten better. So anyway, I've trained a little bit of a handheld fetish here over the years.
All right.
Those are cheaper.
Hey, Jeff. All right. That was a very impressive shack you got there, buddy. What year did you first get licensed?
I got my novice ticket in 1977 as a kid. I started being interested in radio years before that, probably about the early 70s. Mostly just, I guess, AM radio, actually. Broadcast AM radio here. Listen to it at night, hear the propagation come in, and that's really fascinating. Still fascinating days. But I didn't get my ticket until 1977. Obviously.
What is the one thing that you really enjoy about ham radio that might help you guy make the decision to go ahead and get into this hobby?
Any of the theory behind it. If having a radio license didn't allow me to talk, didn't allow me to work CW or FT8 or whatever, if I couldn't do any of that, and all I could do was build a beacon station and send a experimental signal out, I would do it because I like the theory behind the RF. I like studying how it gets to your antenna, how it leaves your antenna, how it comes back to an antenna, what it does once it gets in the equipment. It would be worth it to me just to get in the RF end of it. That's me. A lot of people just want to get on there and talk, and that's fine too. If you want to do that. But I love the theory behind it. I still study it today real regularly. I've got several books. We showed you the ARRL handbook. Several years ago when I was younger, I took a correspondence course. A lot of y'all don't know what that means. Before we had computers, we had to get a course through the mail. Well, I took that course through the mail, and it was all on polystate theory, RF tube theory. Everything to do with transmitters and antennas. Studied. I still get those books out regularly and refresh my mind. So that's what I do.
Wasn't your first all band 100-watt HF rig a Heathkit 101 that you built?
I built several Heath kits over the years. HW101 was the first one I built. I don't even remember what year that was. I think it was about 78 maybe. Right after those Konar that I showed you, my next radio. Like I worked all that summer hauling hay. And I worked for a bricklayer, mixing mud and carrying brick, saved my money up, and bought that all of that year. Built it, used it for several years. But still good to this day. It's still good to this equipment.
Guys, there's one thing Jeff and I both want to point out to you. Jeff's been a ham since '77. I've been a ham since '91. You don't have to start out with a whole wall full of equipment. It's taken 40 years for him to get to that point. When I got in this hobby in '91, both of us were working the same job. Both of us had small kids. And y'all seen a picture of my first shack was a bench with one radio on it. And talking about those talkies, back in the day, they were mega expensive. And my first talkie was a dumpster dive Yaesu. Somebody found it in a dumpster. I gave $35 for it. I used it for years. So don't let the fact that you may not can afford all of this right off the bat keep you out of this hobby. Because you can get in here with one radio and have a lot of fun with it.
It's not about the money. It's about figuring out what you like about it and find you some people that are in the hobby that like the same things that you do, if you can, if that's possible to do, and get with them on. Like we do a lot of 10-meter round table group. We all love that. 2-meter round table. We all do that. We love experimenting, building antennas, all that kind of stuff. Find somebody that has a shared interest in it and get into it with them. Let them. I had a friend I went to school with, and we got into amateur radio together in high school, and we just, we had a shared interest of talking on the radio, working on stuff. Spent a lot of years doing it together. So find somebody, and again, you don't have to spend a ton of money. Everybody wants to get a handheld first thing, and that's okay if that's what you want to do. But that's probably one of the most disappointing things you can do as a technician is get a handheld and have nothing else. Because the bands are going to be limited. The capabilities are going to be severely limited, what you can do. You got 10 repeaters around you, that's great. But most people don't. And trying to do it on a rubber antenna, so that limits you. And you're going to have some crusty old hands on there. Yes, we know they exist. And yes, they'll argue with you or tell you what to do. And that is nothing new. That's not a new. When I got into it in the 70s and 80s, they were around then. So they're not extinct. They're still here. But if there's any way possible, I would highly suggest getting something you can work 30 megahertz and below on. In other words, HF. Get you something you can work the lower bands on. People say all the time, well, I'm a technician. All I can do is 10 meters. That's not true. If I'm correct on this, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but it's still true, you can work 80, 40, 15, 10, right? On below 30 megahertz, you check 10. There might be some others there, but I know.
CW on them other bands.
But yes, that's the kicker at CW. And no, you do not have to drag one of these out and learn that. It's good if you can. But there's all kind of interfaces you can hook your computer up to. And I know most of you have probably got a computer. You can actually interface your computer to the radio, and you can do the CW on the computer, and it will read it, and you can send it out as you type it. So you can have the benefit and experiment and learn about the lower bands like 80 or 40 or whatever via CW that way. That's going to be a little costly, but that's one way you can expand your bands that you can use. And when you upgrade to general and extra, you'll have the radio there to go ahead and work whatever mode.
Jeff, before we wrap this up, I'm not going to go outside. It's hot, and the antennas don't pick up good with this camera. But give us a little quick rundown of the type of antennas that you're using right now.
Everything that I use out there on the shack, with the exception of one, is homemade. I've got a Hustler BTV vertical antenna, ground mounted, and it's another project in the making. It's a 5 BTV. They make a 4, a 5, and a 6, depending on how many tracks it's got on it, or coils work in different bands because they're multi-band. Mine's just stuck in the ground. I've got a some stuff I'm gonna do with it. But I've got a tower that I acquired used, a Ron 25. It's the second one I've had in my lifetime. It's about 40 feet, I think, to the top, give or take. Got it used, got it cheap. We inspected it pretty good before I bought it, before I paid for it. It was already down, it wasn't put up. You can find them used. And a lot of people will give them to you if you'll take it down. But don't climb the thing unless you know it's secure to climb. Because a lot of them that stand there and they may be busted. So they're not get on them unless you know that. This one was already down. I went ahead and paid her for it. Brought it home, then shined the light up in the legs, tubing, and it was all good. No rust through spots. It was really good shape. If I had to go buy a top section that was pointed for the top element, the top hole to go in. It was beat up pretty bad. Adam, WD5HKV, I got it off him. He basically gave it to me, and it had been on a tower that evidently had sawed down and fell, and it twisted and bent. It took me several days to get it straight, but I did get it straightened out, put it on the top. I've got a wire dipole, having absolutely nothing in it, nothing except the coax, and you got to have that anyway. So nothing in the wire 40-meter dipole. Above it, I've got my rotatable 10-meter, which we talked on the round table. I target with that rotor that I showed you. Nothing in it. I use some PVC tubing to support. As a support, I used aluminum tubing I got from an old used camping tent. 3/4 ID tubing for the elements. And some zip ties to hold it all together, and that's it. I built a rotatable dipole out of nothing. I took some bolts and put the ends of the elements for studs to mount my coax to. So basically zero in that. A homemade 3-element 2-meter Yagi, 2 meters, out of a TV antenna that was stripped down and rebuilt. Nothing in it.
I've got a video on that same antenna.
Yep. But that was the plans were given to me, being my friend that I grew up with in ham radio back in the 70s, 80s. An old man gave us those plans and it's stuck with me all these years. And I can't count how many things I built. Every one of them have been successful. They just, a lot of the hammerheads have built them and had really good luck with them. Probably, I'm guessing, I've never checked it, maybe 8 dB4 gain on them, something like that. They're not real directional, so you got a little side radiation off of them and a little bit on the back. You do get some gain going forward with them. So for the money, for zero money in them, an antenna that was given to you, you're not going to beat that.
That's right.
A few screws, you need a few screws put together with. That's it, really.
That's it.
And that's pretty much my antenna farm right there. Now, for now, it's constantly changing. Just like my shack's constantly changing. It's never the same.
Well, Jeff, buddy, I appreciate it. I've enjoyed this, and I think everybody enjoyed seeing the shack. And thanks for sharing your shack with us on this video.
Yep.